name is Pamela Lesh. I'm your first. Next Friday, August 24th, our program is called Beyond the Spotted Owl, featuring Northwest Forest Service spokesperson John Boutrill and Charles Philpott, who is the Director of Forest Research. They'll discuss their vision for the Forest Service as we go into the next century. The program will be in the Mayfair Room here at the Benson. The following Friday, August 31st, our program is called Oregon Benchmarks, Charting a Course Through the Pacific Century, and that'll be presented by the Oregon Progress Board. Gussie McRobert, who is mayor of Gresham and a member of the Oregon Progress Board, and Duncan Wise, their executive director, will speak. That program will be on the 41st floor of the U.S. Bancorp Tower. Before I introduce our speaker, I wanted to take a few moments today to talk about City Club Research. As your first vice president, I'm chair of the City Club Research Board and will be for the next year. It's my 4th year on the research board, and I've been involved in City Club research for about 8 years in total. I'm happy to say that after those 8 years, I still think it's one of the most exciting things about City Club. That a group of citizens forms a committee, learns about an issue that's central to their community, but probably not a part of their working lives, comes to conclusions and produces a report that thoroughly discusses the issue and makes recommendations is a very exciting thing. In the recent past, we've dealt with issues such as how to pay for the legal defense of poor persons who are accused of a crime, and of the police and fire persons' pension and disability program. In the next few months, we'll issue recommendations on 5 key ballot measures, and we also have reports coming on tax increment financing, something I know I don't understand, and on ethnic minorities in Portland. I encourage all of you to consider volunteering for a committee. It's a rewarding, although at times very hard and very time-consuming process. And because I know our staff is cringing over there thinking they can't place all the people that volunteer now, let me just tell you that you need to do 2 things. You need to be patient and you need to be persistent. Don't be afraid to call the staff and tell them of your interest and tell them about some of your skills, because that can help in placing a person on a committee as well. We'll certainly make every effort to try and place people who haven't served before on committees as we form them. And even if you don't serve on a committee, I want to encourage you to read the reports and attend the meetings at which we debate them and vote on them. These reports are yours. Be proud of them. And now to today's program. Our board host seated at the head table is Kathy Oxborough, member of the Board of Governors and executive assistant for the Oregon Commission for the Blind. She'll have the privilege of asking the first question of our speaker. Our second question today will come from Phil Vanderweel, member of the Business and Labor Standing Committee and attorney with the firm of Tonkin, Torp, Galen, Marmaduke, and Booth. We open the meeting to questions from City Club members after our speaker is finished. We prefer our members to come to the microphone for questions. Please identify yourself before asking the question. And as your immediate past president, Bill Lesh, and a person very near and dear to me, used to say every Friday, please remember that a question ends in a question mark. We'll also accept written questions as time permits. The forms are on your table. Please hold them up so City Club staff can collect them. Saks Fifth Avenue. Just saying that kind of invokes the sights and sounds of New York. High fashion, big name designers, sparkling evening gowns, and very tailored business suits. Just next week, this little bit of New York comes to Portland, Oregon. But amidst all the excitement of the opening, one might ask just a few questions. Is a town that sports Birkenstocks and Gore-Tex really ready for Saks Fifth Avenue? How will Saks Fifth Avenue challenge the Northwest tradition that's known as Nordstrom's? And given the recent demise of I. Magnin in Portland, does the downtown core really need another new department store? Here to answer some of these questions for us is Paul Leblang, the Senior Vice President and Marketing Director for Saks Fifth Avenue. During his 14-year tenure with Saks, Paul is credited with developing one of the most impressive promotional and advertising teams in the industry. His resume includes Vice President of G. Fox & Company, Advertising Director of Abercrombie & Fitch, and Advertising Manager of Gimbels. The list of honorary positions and memberships would daunt someone less worthy. Suffice to say that Paul Leblang is heavily involved in his industry and in advertising. Indeed, in 1979, he was named to the Retail Advertising Hall of Fame. Mr. Leblang holds a PhD and MBA from New York University Graduate School of Business Administration. Please join me in welcoming him today.
Thank you very much, Pam. As a good speaker, I should now sit down after that wonderful, wonderful introduction, but I do sincerely appreciate it. And I thank all of you for the privilege of inviting me to speak before the City Club, and it is indeed an honor and a privilege. All of us at Saks Fifth Avenue are looking forward to our pre-opening party next Tuesday, and of course to the opening of the store on Wednesday, August 22nd. I'm going to try to take the opportunity at noon today to talk to you a little bit about Saks Fifth Avenue, about retailing in general, and finally about our new store in Portland. You know, long before there was a Rockefeller Center, Saks Fifth Avenue was there. Long before there was a Rodeo Drive, Saks Fifth Avenue was there. Long before there was a Miracle Mile in Chicago, Saks Fifth Avenue was there. And long before other stores crossed state lines, Saks Fifth Avenue was on the move. We opened in New York in 1924, in Florida in 1926, in Chicago in 1929, and in California in 1938. Now, most people think of us as a New York store, okay? But there is a Fifth Avenue in Portland, too, I discovered, where we happen to be located. Now we've got it at either end of the continent. At any rate, most people think of us as a New York store. But in fact, we have more stores in California, 9, than we have in any other state. And there are only 4 stores in New York. We have more stores in Florida than we have in New York. So we are truly spread across the country. And before other stores really did start to cross state lines, we started to cross state lines and build stores where we thought there was an appropriate market for us, and in some of the resort areas where our New York customers went to spend the winters or summers, whether it was Palm Beach, Palm Springs, or Southampton. The question is, why has Saks been so successful for so many years and continues to grow in a retail environment that unfortunately finds many stores in Chapter 11, has witnessed the disappearance of so many retail names in the past few years? And as an old-time retailer, that makes me very sad. A good part of the answer, I believe, is that Saks never lost sight of the customer it went into business to serve, or its commitment to quality and service that Adam Gimbel made 65 years ago. We're a store with a heritage, a legacy and a tradition that has been sustained by all the great merchants and creative people who helped shape Saks Fifth Avenue, and was shaped in turn by their experiences with the company. We are succeeding in an industry that has come upon hard times, and unfortunately, I feel that the difficulties for the retail industry are going to continue through much of this decade. Among some of the long-term difficulties that I see is one that I think you're all familiar with. America is overstored and over-shopping centered. Retailing suffers from overcapacity, and it's simply in the process of being restructured. That's really the bottom line. There are too many stores, too many shopping centers, and it's dividing up the business too thinly so that people cannot make a financial success out of it. It is also moving from a big, in my opinion, from a big department store dominance to an era characterized by specialty stores, stores that are selling highly specific merchandise to specific groups of customers, whether that be the Banana Republic or a Saks Fifth Avenue. It's specialty stores that are dealing with a portion of what the consumer's needs are instead of being big dominant department stores. Many stores, as I'm sure you all know, and has been true here in Portland as in the rest of the country, have resorted to little else other than price promotion to gain sales. This has simply resulted in confusing the consumer's sense of value. Their value perception has been totally eroded. And even where off-price sales have increased total sales for the company, the resulting deterioration of gross margin has resulted in poor profit performance. According to an article in the New York Times, retail industry profit rates are the lowest since 1968. And after-tax dollar profits have declined every year since 1986. Certainly not a very good state of an industry. In the case of highly leveraged buyouts, the poor profit and cash flow has resulted in the inability to service debt, and hence a high portion of American retailing was up for sale or was in some form of Chapter 11. Now, a second long-range problem, which in this case is also an opportunity, is what I call changing channels of distribution. Channel of distribution for retailing, as I know you're all aware, is simply manufacturer, retailer, consumer, a very, very simple channel. The wholesaler is not much involved in typical retail business today. Now that is being changed. Channels are changing. We're moving to manufacturer or store, catalog, consumer. Result is there's no retail store in the middle. It's an alternate channel of distribution for the consumer. We have Ralph Lauren, who's a manufacturer, but we have Ralph Lauren as a store consumer. So we have manufacturers and designers going into their own store. And again, the traditional department store, whether it be a Nordstrom's or a Saks or a Meyer & Frank or a Bullock's or whatever else you want to call it, is being bypassed by a changing channel of distribution. And finally, to a smaller extent, but one which I think will grow during the next decade, you have the television and electronic shopping coming online. And this is all related to the fact that the normal channel of distribution, manufacturer, retailer, consumer, which has been around for many, many years, is changing, and the consumer, all of you and me, have alternate ways to shop. I am sure that if I asked you this question, I doubt there'd be anybody in this room that when they open their mailbox doesn't have a catalog in it. Okay? In fact, you might have more than one catalog, all right? And what's more, you buy from them. And that's what happens. It's a changing channel of distribution. An opportunity for retailers because Saks, as some of you may know, has a large number of catalogs from their folio. Nordstrom's also has some catalogs. Magnin has some catalogs. It's another opportunity for us to make life easier for the consumer to shop. But at the same time, it changes the channel of distribution. In each case, the physical store is being bypassed, which reduces store traffic with each alternate channel of distribution. And finally, I think the third most important thing is that the traditional purchasing agent in the home has changed her lifestyle. She has changed her lifestyle. Women were for many, many years the traditional purchasing agent in the home, and they really still are. In spite of all the work and everything else, they get stuck with more of the tasks, okay? But today, the vast majority of women, particularly in the 18 to 45-year age group, as well as women beyond that, are working. And they're working because they want to work, they're working because they're succeeding in business, they're working and becoming the CEOs and top executives in company after company. But what does that do? It creates what we call time poverty. Two-income households, more money than ever before, but not one heck of a lot of time. Now, many stores lack acceptable service levels. Shopping, frankly, is no longer a pleasant experience. In many cases, Saks has always been a high-service store. Unfortunately, most stores, with the notable exception of Nordstrom's here in the Northwest and elsewhere in the country where they have stores, have been reducing service levels. And this runs directly counter to the need of women, and I pick on women because they're the bulk of department store shoppers, but of course on men too, who also do not have a lot of excess time to stand around and have some sales clerk tell them, over there, it's not my department. Okay. It happens, I hate to tell you. All right. All too often, one finds retail stores imitating their competition rather than developing their own marketing strategy, a strategy that differentiates them from their competitors, that talks about their strengths, that's designed to match marketing strategy to merchandising objectives, and that is proactive rather than reactive. Saks Fifth Avenue's marketing strategy is really designed to support the 4 building blocks on which our business is built, and they're really pretty simple, and they've been consistent. The first 2 are quality and fashion. Quality fashion assortments that project a sense of fashion, leadership, style, and taste that leads consumers to believe that Saks is a fashion authority. Now, that's nice and it sounds terrific and it rolls off the tongue, but what it really means is that we edit very carefully around the world. We specify standards on our own manufacturing. We inspect for quality. And what do we do this for? And that's to ensure fashion value. Ensure fashion value. The word value is not always associated with Saks Fifth Avenue, but you can buy expensive things and you can buy cheap things. And you can get good or bad value at either end of the price spectrum. Our job is to search the world in the United States and bring together for you the best value at every price point. So when we sell you a $200 evening gown, or we sell you a $5,000 evening gown, you're getting the best fashion and the best value at each of the price points, and our price points are very wide. Number 2 is our dedication to service. We believe that superior service is a competitive tool and can differentiate us from competitors and will produce store business and loyalty. Finally, ambiance, funny word, but it's the atmosphere of our stores, the visual presentation, the packaging, the friendliness of the salespeople. If we're going to sell you some very nice merchandise, it's got to be done in an atmosphere that goes along with the merchandise, all right? And that's ambiance, and that's an important part. The magic word, and there is a magic word, however, is consistency. Consistency. Consistency of merchandise content, consistency of service, consistency of quality, consistency of ambiance, consistency of resource relations, consistency of marketing thrust. As our society has developed, a wider range of affluence has developed. With people being better educated and better traveled, there's an interest and a desire, we believe, for higher quality lifestyles, which immediately creates a demand for higher quality merchandise and higher quality service, a different kind of ambiance and a different kind of experience. There are sophisticated people everywhere in this country. The more sophisticated societies tend to have large metropolitan areas where cultural activities are centered. Even people outside these large cities use the city as a place to go to theater, to go to concerts, art galleries, and of course for shopping. There are people everywhere that have those interests. And that has been what has made it possible for us to position ourselves in all the major metropolitan markets in the country. Almost all, let's put it that way. We believe in downtown. Next Wednesday, as you know, we said before, we're going to open in downtown Portland. On September 7th, we're going to open our beautiful new store in downtown Chicago on Michigan Avenue, which replaces the original store. And it's located right across the street. On September 17th, we'll formally open our new addition to the New York headquarters store in Manhattan, which will increase our space by 1/3. And that, incidentally, is the first addition to a downtown store in Manhattan since World War II. Now, we're constantly asked, why Portland? Why downtown? And what about the economy? Those 3 things always seem to come out in anybody that talks to me. And let me try to give you some perspective on that, which might be helpful. Portland represents a sophisticated market. It's a market with affluence. It's a market with an interest in fashion. It's a market whose lifestyles, we believe, will support a Saks Fifth Avenue store. As I said earlier, there are 2 issues as to why somebody goes someplace. And they're both very important. The first issue is, do you want to be here? Do you want to be in Portland? Do you want to be in Seattle? Do you want to be in San Francisco? That's issue number 1. But issue number 2, which is what makes it work, is where. Where do you want to be in Portland? You got to have those two things come together. You've got to have a sense that, yes, I want to be in this market because the market is right, but then you have to have a place within the market that is right for you. We generally only have one store in the market, so we want that store to be where it's most convenient for the majority of the potential customers that we see in the market. In the case of Portland, we believe it's downtown. You have been investing in downtown, in housing, your light rail system, which I think you call MAX, a convention center, your waterfront. You spent a lot of money in reclaiming the waterfront. Your cultural activities are downtown, and you have pursued a downtown plan since sometime in the early 1970s. I forget the exact date, but you set up a plan at that time, and basically it's pretty well been followed. In listening to Pam make the remarks concerning the club, it's the kind of research that this kind of organization does, which tries to address problems before they become major problems and find a way to resolve them, which is what makes downtown such a viable area in Portland. And we're not downtown in every city, we're downtown in a lot, and Portland is a downtown city as we see it. All right? Now about the economy, okay? Like the weather, it changes. And like the weather, there's not a heck of a lot that any one person can do about it. We've tried. We frankly view a store as a long-term commitment. And if you look at a 20 to 40-year time period, the economy is going to be good, the economy is going to be bad. Our history for many, many years now is that you have a business cycle and it goes up and down. And so we opened stores in Texas and in Tulsa during the 1980s. Stores are doing great. Got to have faith. All right? We're opening, as I said to you before, a new store in Chicago, which I mentioned a few minutes ago, on September 7th, on Michigan Avenue, directly across from our present store, which will close. You know, what's important about that? We opened that original store in 1929. So much for the economy. Our decision to be an active player in downtown Portland's ongoing renewal is a measure of our belief in Portland. And we, of course, are hopeful that our presence will contribute to the economic vitality of the city. Now, fashion is fashion. And there's lots of fashion out there. But there is a sophisticated customer across the United States, not just in New York, not just in Beverly Hills. It's a special taste customer that wants a Saks Fifth Avenue product. No matter where they are, that's what they want. And they expect the same of Saks in all their locations. Another question that people ask me, well, how have you changed the merchandise in Portland from all your other Saks stores? The answer is basically we haven't. If we merchandised our store in Portland to reflect all the things you're currently buying in Portland, what the heck do you need us for? You can get it elsewhere with people you know. If we're successful in a city, it's because we bring in something different in our assortments, in our private label merchandise, in our service levels, in the way in which we edit merchandise. And yes, there are differences. We sell lots of winter coats in Boston and not many winter coats in Miami, but those are obvious differences. We're here, and we're going to bring here the best assortment of Saks Fifth Avenue that we have, and we hope, of course, that you like it. Now, I know some of you, I'm sure, in this part of the country have got to be like me, a fisherman, so I thought you'd be interested in this study. According to the Fish and Game Department study, about 90% of all the trout that reach the net are caught by only 10% of the people who fish for them. Now, in the field of marketing, some number of studies have shown that maybe 90% of all prospects are hooked by about 10% of all the marketing efforts. And there's maybe something that we can learn from smart fishermen. One thing is that fancy, expensive equipment doesn't always catch a fish. Knowledge and skill, and most importantly, the capacity to think like a fish, is what's needed. The biggest mistake that unsuccessful fishermen make is assuming the trout's a stupid creature, and the catching one is just a matter of luck. They are, if you have fished for them in the streams, know it's anything but a stupid creature. If that were true, few trout would escape the hordes of fishermen that pursue them, which brings you really to a second consideration. Good fishermen are independent and original. You won't find them standing elbow to elbow with other fishermen just because fish are rumored to be in that stretch of the area, yet many retailers think getting customers in a new market is easy. It is not. One has to provide a very unique combination of goods and services to succeed. Prior to coming to Portland, we conducted numerous market research studies. Then we had our merchants, our fashion directors, and our public relations people talk to a lot of potential consumers. We hired a local public relations agency, Northwest Strategies, to help us understand the market, because there is no way that you can sit in New York or Chicago or Washington, D.C., and understand the way people live and the way people think in markets scattered across the United States. What we do is we get out there and we talk to people. We find what they're interested in, what they want, what they're missing, what they expect of us, and then, of course, we've got to try to meet those expectations. As a matter of fact, aside from our manager, Cindy Stein, and a few other people, about 95% of our employees at the store, about 200 roughly, are all from the greater Portland area. When you visit the store, and we hope, of course, that you will, you'll find a strong cross-section of our merchandise, complete wardrobes and accessories for men, women, in-depth assortment of American and European designer apparel, a lot of our own private label goods, which we take great pride in. There'll also be a Fifth Avenue Club for personal shopping, for personal service, for consultation, wardrobing, or anything else you want. We at Saks are spread out all over the country, and we truly appreciate the support that we receive in the markets where we have stores. And we, in turn, try to support the community. We have an ongoing contribution program, plus fashion shows that raise money for organizations, and we help raise money for cultural, civic, and health organizations in the towns where we have stores. We like to try to return something to those communities because the communities are very good for us. Our Black Tie Party, which is on Tuesday night, will benefit the Oregon Art Institute, the Oregon Ballet Theater, the Symphony, and then the Portland Opera and the Portland Repertory Theater. And during the course of the year, as we have designers out here, we work with organizations in town. They can charge admission to the show and keep all the money, and we'll put on the show. But we do as well as direct cash contributions. So we try very hard to put something back into the community. Saks, from where we started again, Saks has continued to be what it is because it historically has taken a long-term point of view. Everyone at Saks has a strong sense of its history, its traditions, what it was, and what it's always stood for. There's a strong central image that keeps us on course throughout the country. It's a sense of teamwork, no superstars. It's a company that knows itself. Adam Gimbel said it many years ago. He said, Saks is successful because we know our customers, we advertise taste, not price, we carry what our customers want in depth, we try to avoid anything in bad taste, no matter how new it might be. At Saks, we believe that value is created when a consumer's expectations are exceeded. Merely meeting a consumer's expectations is not good enough, and obviously, failing to meet those expectations creates a sense of negative value. We know that Greater Portland has high expectations of Saks Fifth Avenue, and we intend to try to exceed them. Again, thank you all for inviting me here today. We're excited about opening the store in your city, and we hope to see you all there. I'll try to answer any questions, and thank you very, very much.
Our first question will come from Kathy Oxborough.
Kathy?
The Northwest leading retailer is Nordstrom, and they've recently moved into your home territory, the East Coast, and now Saks has its flagship store in Nordstrom country. What specific marketing strategies and how do you plan to position yourself to compete with Nordstrom's now that you're located in the Pacific Northwest?
Thank you, Kathy. Everybody likes to talk about Nordstrom's. You know, they've been chasing into our markets for a long time. We thought it served them right to go invade one of theirs. Actually, Saks and Nordstrom's have more differences than they have similarities. Nordstrom's price points start much lower, and they go up into our better price points. We start at some of their middle to better price points and have merchandise that is far more expensive. Nordstrom's fundamentally tries to have a huge assortment of things. We try to have an edited assortment to try to make shopping easier for the customer. In terms of service, Nordstrom service is excellent. They built a reputation on the service. Our service is also very good. Our salespeople are highly trained so that they can help you put together a top and a bottom and a jacket from different departments instead of just getting it off the Liz Claiborne rack or whatever. We have private label merchandise, as they have private label merchandise. The purpose of our private label merchandise is because we think we can give better value for the money and better style for the money than what the market can produce. We are in the designer business in depth. They're really not. There are areas that we overlap. We compete with Nordstrom's now all the way throughout California, in Washington, and in September they're going to open in Bergen County, which is New Jersey, right across the Hudson River from New York. It's really, although the people in Bergen wouldn't like me to say this, it's a suburban area for New York, and many of the people work in the city. So fundamentally, Kathy, we've been competing with them all along. I think that the shoe is on the other foot. They've got to compete with us now that we're in their market.
Thank you. Phil?
Phil Vanderweel, City Club member. On behalf of my law firm, Tonkintorp, Galen, Marmaduke, and Booth, I'd like to welcome you to Pioneer Tower. We're perched above you on the top 2 floors, and we hope you enjoy it there as much as we do. My question is this: does Saks have a corporate policy of supporting nonprofit organizations that are dedicated to assisting lower income people in the communities where Saks has its stores?
All right, Phil, I can't remember the floor firm, but I remember your name. I would say to you that our basic corporate policy in terms of contribution is cultural, civic, and health. Civic includes things like the United Way. It includes, depending upon the market, what is of interest to our store and to our customers. The way in which we do our contributions program is, again, not to try to do it from New York, because we don't know what's happening here, or in Las Vegas, or in Phoenix, or wherever it may happen to be. We give the store manager a budget. The store manager requests from us, or tells us, rather, the areas they'd like to spend that money in. And most often they ask for more money than we give them. So the answer to your question is basically that the areas that we give are fundamentally determined by the store management with an overview from the corporation, at least to the extent that, for instance, if it were in Washington, D.C., they didn't omit the Kennedy Center or the Music Center, some major cultural organization. But beyond that type of overview, or say, no, I don't like the United Way or something, beyond that kind of overview, that choice is basically up to the store manager, because they're the people that are going to live in this community, are going to get to know the community, and they have that responsibility. So the answer is there's no policy against it. There's no policy for it. It's a question of what each of these store managers do. Hope that answers it.
Yes, would you state your name, please?
Yeah, Bob Tepper, City Club member. During a recent trip to London, I was terribly impressed with Harrods, its extent of products which they merchandised and the quality. And then subsequently, a trip to Berlin, I found a similar store, which you probably know. I can't think of the name now. And I've always wondered why United States has never, no department store in the United States has approached that. Then my second question is, have some of our large department stores been acquired by foreign interests? And if so, is that a good development or a bad development?
All right, well, those are two different questions, so we'll try to take them one at a time. With respect to the first question, I would think that if, from the European point of view, and also from the Far East, they come to the United States to see what a good department store looks like. Harrods is a fine store, but you go into Saks Fifth Avenue in New York, you go into Neiman Marcus, and I. Magnum perhaps in San Francisco, and you will find great stores in this country, and the Europeans constantly come over here to learn how to do it. We always have somebody from Harrods or Selfridges on our training program in New York, and of late we've been having people from Tokyo on our training program. So I don't really think that your basic question, I would say, is more of an opinion than a fact, and that's the best way I can answer it. Now, with respect to the second question, I must say that our Canadian friends who bought department stores ended up in a disaster. Our Australian friends who bought department stores ended up in a disaster, and certainly those two purchases were not good for American retailing. On the other hand, our former owners, British American Tobacco, BAT, took a group of properties, expanded them, made them better, supported them, and indeed got premium prices for both Marshall Fields and Saks Fifth Avenue. Saks Fifth Avenue, as you know, has been bought by InvestCorp. InvestCorp is a company that is really an investment company. It's a group of investors. They invest in something, and we're a separate United States corporation. And the reason that they invest in a company is because it's doing well and has good management. They're not turnaround people. What they want to do is get hold of a good thing, make it better, and then sell it to make a profit on it. So InvestCorp's ownership of Saks Fifth Avenue should enhance the value of Saks, possibly lead us to go overseas and challenge Harrods or Takashimaya or Seibu or one of the other companies around the world. But I would say that it's not a question of foreign ownership, because Federated, before they were acquired by Campo, was not doing particularly well. As you have seen in your own markets, there are stores that come and go that are domestic. I think it's mostly a question, like in any other business, the skill of the managers who manage it. And if they're good, that company is going to succeed. And if they're bad, whether they're French, Canadian, British, Australian, or whatever, it isn't going to work. But on the basis of the present record, neither Canada nor Australia have been particularly good for American retailing, and in that you are right. Yes, any other question?
I have a question. I was just about to think I was going to get to ask a question here. It's quite all right.
Anytime you want.
I just want you to know that my credit card is ready. All right?
Terrific.
I'm Marcia Slappy, and one thing I'm interested in is does your marketing indicate that you'll have the same amount or numbers of designer gowns as you do elsewhere in Portland?
Well, the answer to you is yes. We have a very, very fine selection of designer gowns. As a matter of fact, for the opening of the store, the party on Tuesday night, Mary McFadden will be out here at the party. David Hayes, which is not in that area, Adolfo, Molly Parnes, and there's one other. I forget, frankly. Oh, Bob Mackey. Can't forget Bob Mackey, okay?
Yes.
He makes very slinky gowns.
He certainly does. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes, ma'am.
Ellen Hiltzel, City Club member. I'm curious about the sales tax and its prospects for its impact on retailing if we should have one in the state. You have done your homework before coming here, and what would you, how do you, what do you anticipate if there would be that change in our tax structure? I think that what I've read is that Portland's strength as a retail center is in some regard affected by the fact that we don't have a sales tax.
Well, I was going to say, just to recollect, you do not have a sales tax at the current time. I think the issue of sales tax, income tax, or whatever other kind of tax structure, the size of property taxes, or whatever it is really an issue for the general public, which is why that kind of thing gets put up to a vote. And from a store's point of view, we're a collection agency. It does make it more expensive for the consumer because they're paying more for it. And the issue before the voters would be is, will what the additional revenue, will what the state spends the additional revenue of the city on, is it worth it to me? In terms of retail business, okay, most states have a use tax law on the books, and now, since I don't know your law here, but most states have a use tax law on the books, which means they can collect sales tax from people if they know how to find them. Do you have a use tax law on the books? No, no use tax. That's different than sales tax. Okay, I would simply suggest to you that our experience in being in states that are contiguous is that if there is a substantial difference in sales tax, the business would tend on the very large purchases to flow to the state with a small sales tax. But time and money are also important, and therefore people are not going to run down from Washington to Portland to buy a pair of pantyhose because of a difference in tax. If they could get away with buying the car, you're telling me they can get away with buying the car? I doubt it. It'd be most unusual if they can. But I would say to you that I don't think that, from a retailer's point of view, is a major issue. That's a issue among the voters, and we do what has to be done.
Alan Oliver, City Club member.
Yes, Alan.
Do you anticipate moving into our neighbor to the north and having a Seattle store sometime in the near future?
If you look at the Pacific Northwest, there are two viable cities, obviously Portland and Seattle. At the present time, a site in Seattle, there is no commitment. Let me put it this way, there is no commitment to Seattle. We are interested in Seattle. It is a great city, but you got to get the two things to come together. Do you want to be there? Sure. Where is the issue? When the proper where comes along, I'm sure that we'll move in that direction. Seattle is one of the very, very few markets in the country that are major that we don't have a store in. So yes, I would say eventually. It's a good city. But Portland got us first.
Mr. Leblang, City Club member Rocky Bloomhagen, I'd like to know a little bit about your advertising and marketing directions and the separation between electronic and print advertising. Which vendors are going to receive your revenue budgets?
Righty. Fundamentally, Saks is spread throughout the entire country. Therefore, we are not heavy advertisers. You open up the papers, and whether it's the Broadway in California, or it's May D&F in Denver, or Myron Frank here, they develop their business, they buy their business with a lot of advertising. We do not do that. We have a low-key campaign in the newspaper, in the Oregonian, as well as in the Downtowner. We are on a group of radio stations with some commercials. As we go, and of course we have our folio business, our catalogs, which go out to people in the market. Before we opened the store in Portland, we had 2,500 charge account customers right here in Portland. We now have over 20,000. We communicate with them with 35 catalogs a year. So the direct marketing is one way, newspaper exposure is another, from time to time radio, and then of course we have a whole national magazine campaign some of you may see in Vogue or Town and Country or Travel and Leisure or Gourmet or many other publications which cover us nationally. Because Saks Fifth Avenue is a very large company, if you take it in total across the country, but in any one market, we're a small company. And consequently, we do not spend very, very large sums of money on advertising. We spend our money instead on salespeople, which we think are more important than the ads. But we do some. You're welcome.
Let me just follow up on that with a question, since you mentioned salespeople. One of the controversies recently in the Northwest has been the commissioned salespeople at Nordstrom and some labor complaints that have arisen over extra work required of those people. Will you pay your salespeople on a commission basis, or how do you work that?
Okay. Our people are not paid on a commission basis. They have never been paid on a commission basis, although I think there's one department in New York, men's clothing, that's commissioned, and that goes back before I was born, or close to it at any rate. Fundamentally, we believe that you should pay people up front good money, and that if dresses are hot one year and slacks are hot, or pantsuits are hot the next year, it's no reason for the dress sales lady or the pantsuit sales lady to be penalized because fashion changes. We do have incentive systems that bonus arrangements for sales associates based upon increases over previous sales levels. But basically, if I sell you something and I'm a salesperson, under a commission system, I'm going to get a commission on it. And boy, I hate like heck when you bring it back. When you're not on a commission, anybody will handle a return, everybody is happy, people aren't fighting over business. Our objective is to take care of the customer. As I said earlier, there's lots of places to buy clothing. Okay, lots of places. If we can't give you a different assortment in the right ambiance with the right service levels, what the heck do you need us for? So we believe very strongly in motivating sales associates through their pay levels and, of course, through some sort of a bonus arrangement, but we are not believers in the commission system. With respect to Nordstrom's troubles, I just would not comment on that.
Well, I guess I just get to keep going here. Mr. Leblang, I know you've had some experience lecturing on retailing and retailing in Japan. Would you comment on any differences between retailing here and retailing in Japan?
Yes, I don't know how you ever dug up that information. I've lectured in Japan a number of times to retailers there. Well, the differences are enormous, but the first basic difference is that the Japanese have what translated into English approximately means a large-scale retailing law. And what that law is that you just can't acquire property and open up a store or a shopping center. You got to get the permission of every little mama-san on the block to do that. Now, that doesn't take much imagination to understand that it is very difficult to open a store someplace else. So what you have in Japan are nothing like the spread of stores. You don't have stores going down, and as the population expands, lots of stores in the surrounding area, because the laws make that virtually impossible. The second major difference is that in Japan, the people that own the business are the wholesalers. Now, I don't mean it literally in terms of ownership and in terms of financial ownership, but they assort everything by resource, by designer. And the goods are in on consignment. So that the Japanese make a very, very, very tiny profit. If you think profits in the retail business in the United States are low, the Japanese make very little. And that's a second major difference. The third major difference is they do virtually nothing by lifestyle. Everything is by resource. Huge stores, very confusing. I don't know if that's helpful, Pam. And I could talk for another hour, but you don't want to listen.
We have a question from the audience. You mentioned the personal shopping service that you provide. Will this be, will there be a cost associated with that service? And will you offer it to both low-end shoppers as well as high-end shoppers?
No cost. The service is available to anybody who wants to take advantage of it. Actually, the Fifth Avenue Club, which is what we call the complex, represents a group of services, depending upon the market. In San Francisco, we have somebody there who speaks Japanese because we get a lot of Japanese visitors. In New York, we have a lot of European visitors as well as Japanese, so we have language specialists in the International Club. We have special services to work with the concierges of the hotels. We have another special service that works with the Convention and Visitors Bureau on convention people coming into town. We have an executive club service which is designed for the very busy executive woman because as a mother and a lover and a wife and a cleaner and a shopper and everything else, you do have very little time. And what happens is we're able to bring everything into one fitting room for you, for your kids, gifts, husband stuff like shirts or pajamas or stuff that you might buy. You're downtown and you're going to a board of directors meeting this afternoon. And you're sitting there studying what you want to say, and all of a sudden you spill some coffee on your blouse. You pick up the phone and call us, and we'll run a blouse over to you because we know you as a customer. Executive club service. Then we have personal shopping services. That's for the person who just wants extra special help. It may be taking them throughout the store to buy. It may be bringing things to them. It may be somebody that's handicapped. It may not be. It is not a question of big spender or little spender. Everybody who spends with us we like, and we try to treat them well.
Yes, would you identify yourself, please?
Ivan Goddard. Most of your remarks seem addressed to the bread and butter market, namely the woman buyer. You can understand that this is of somewhat less interest to me. Will you stock 42 extra long?
Well, I'll tell you a very interesting thing about that. I've been with Saks for 13 years, 14 years, I guess, and I wear a 46 extra long, and I got a 36-inch sleeve. You see my sleeve here. Yes, we do carry the larger sizes. In a 42, we would certainly have that, and we do have 36-inch sleeve shirts now. I told them I quit if they didn't eventually get them, and they liked me. We do have that. 1737 too. 17 and a half. 37 is the longest. You want to go for 38? Fine. Now we do have it, and we do have a fairly decent assortment of it. And as a long sleeve guy, I keep pushing for more.
I'm going to have you switch gears drastically here. We have a question asking you to comment a little further on the effects of leveraged buyouts on the retail industry.
Well, I don't really know what the person who asked the question had in mind. Fundamentally, as you all know, leveraged buyout simply means that there's a lot of debt involved. A lot of debt involved means that you got to repay it. And even Donald Trump is having trouble these days. The papers say he's in the hole. The issue is that if you pay a lot of money and you're depending upon cash flow from the business to repay that debt, the interest on the debt, also to finance housekeeping to keep your stores up to date, as well as financing expansion, then you have to be very careful that your business plans are accurate enough and your expense control is good enough that indeed it will generate the profit dollars and effect that you need. I don't know what else to say about it. If the person who asked the question had something else in mind, please ask it.
One of the failings of our written question system, as you can see. Coming back to competition in Nordstrom, we've all gotten quite spoiled here by the anniversary sale that Nordstrom has every year, and then there's a half-yearly. How much will big price reduction promotions be a part of your campaign for Saks?
Well, Saks is not any different than any other kind of a store. We buy merchandise. Not all of it sells. And that's what markdowns are for. We take the markdowns. What is? That's what they're for. If we were perfect and we could, that'd be the millennium, but we're not, nor is anybody else, so we mark our goods down. We have a major clearance sale after Christmas, December 26th. We have another one the end of June, beginning of July. But the difference with Saks is that you have sale merchandise in Saks all the time. And what happens is we buy merchandise. The trick is that you want to have a flow of merchandise. You want to have new deliveries all the time, so there's something new and interesting in the store to buy. And we bring it in, we put it up for sale, regular price, and we sell through 65, 75% of the merchandise, and it's not selling. We'll then mark it down. So that within the confines of the store, you will find in virtually any department markdowns. Not the first day you go in there because we haven't had a chance to sell it yet. But give us a little bit of time and you'll find them. But seriously, in basic answer to that question is, there's always sale of merchandise in Saks. We have clearances several times a year. And what makes the stuff at Saks very good is that we don't buy in a lot of junk for you. This is markdowns on the merchandise that we always carry, which means it's a true value. Of course, if you still don't like it, we mark it down further, and eventually some people tell us it's never a true value.
In our last few moments, I wonder if you'd just give us a few of your personal impressions in the city of Portland.
Well, from what I've been able to see of the city, it's lovely. I have been here, this is the third time that I've been to Portland. All of it, well, fourth time. I was here many years ago when a very good friend of mine was sales promotion director of Meyer and Frank, Harry Wendland, who has not been in the market for a while. He's now with the May Company, California. But at any rate, and I saw a bit of the city then, but that's got to be 20 years ago. But in the last year and a half, I've been out here 3 times. Unfortunately, I've seen a lot of Fifth Avenue. I've seen a lot of the river. I've seen a lot of the press. And I really have not had a chance to really see a lot of the city. But I'll tell you an interesting story about that. Our store manager, Cindy Stein, and I had breakfast this morning with Fred Stickle and his son from the Oregonian. Just a social meeting to get together and to say hello. And, I guess we were through breakfast about 9 o'clock. And Cindy says to me, Mr. Leblang, do you mind if I don't take you to the store? I hadn't been to the store yet, so I said, no, Cindy, why don't we go to, well, okay, what do you want to do? He says, well, I want to show you Portland. And she spent the next 45 minutes showing me the city of Portland, which she felt was more important than showing me the store. So basically, I did get a little bit of look this morning to get up into the hills, to see a little bit of Nob Hill, to take a look at some of your buildings downtown, and hopefully, over the course of the weekend and a few days next week, I'll get a chance to see a little bit more. But at this point, I certainly wouldn't do for the Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you very much. That concludes our program.